NamRA Kachenu, NamRA nchi yetu, NamRA Kachenu, NamRA nchi yetu, NamRA Kachenu, NamRA nchi yetu, NamRA Kachenu, NamRA nchi yetu.
NamRA, serving with passion.
Hello and welcome to this edition of NamRA Kachenu, where the focus is on tax, customs and excise matters. I'm Puye Ipawa Mwaetako, keeping you company for the next half an hour or so. In this edition, NamRA participates in the 7th African Tax Administration Forum, ATAF General Assembly. NamRA takes tax education to the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC. The Copa Festival happened and NamRA was present. All that and more coming to you in a while. For an entity such as NamRA, international relations are crucial for growth and keeping up with the current trends. NamRA recently joined other revenue administrations on the continent for the 7th ATAF General Assembly in Nigeria, focusing on how to concretize domestic revenue to achieve sustainable development. Here are the highlights of the event.
As part of our strategic vision for the new decade, it is important that we, as part of the human face of tax administration and part of our general development, ladies and gentlemen, consider the role played by women in our society as critical. While bearing the brunt of most that life offers, even the tax world is not excluded. Thus, ATAF's strategic plan in the next decade is to support tax administrations to develop policies and administration systems that enhances the empowerment of women for a better society.
The revenue agency was only launched last year, 7th of April 2021, and between then and now we have recruited more than 750 employees from the executive. Now, to answer that question, I'm going to focus on 3 points. First, about the importance of human capital. Then I will share a framework developed by a professor from Oxford University called Lyon. Then I will then conclude with the top 10 skills that is required by the taxpayer of the future. We all know that everything starts and ends with people. We've also been told that there are no great companies or great tax authorities. But what needs to happen is you need to have great employees, great people. That is what makes great companies or great tax authorities. We have time and again heard about this debate that you have better skills and knowledge in private sectors than in public sector, like now in tax authorities. But I always like to remind people that all the people that you'll find in public sector and private sector, they all graduate from the same university. It's really how we manage the knowledge and the skills of the people that we have, and it's possible to have the best skills within tax authority. I'll give an example. I've been working in the private sector, in the public sector for 27 years now. And as far as tax expertise is concerned, the best tax expertise that you could find and that I have experienced is from tax authorities. I'll give you an example from Mauritius. I have met them. From SARS. They even consult for the European and American, Kenya, Uganda, Eswatini. You mentioned them, Nigeria, and so on. So when you look about talking about best skills in taxation, even the IMF, World Council on Taxation, they know that the place to find that is in tax authority.
As per the strategic plan, NamRA has the obligation to ensure that taxpayers are informed educated and constantly engaged on NamRA's mandate, tax and trade matter in addition to enhancing the brand. NamRA recently had a tax education session with the staff members of the ACC. Here is how the event went.
Once the return is late, then penalties come across. Then you'll have penalties, but you won't have any interest, it's just be penalties. But also, like he said, you're very fair. You can come and ask for penalty waiver because you didn't perhaps understand that you were supposed to file on time. And this relief that we are running now also applies to them. Once you update, you register on the portal, you just register for tax relief program. You don't need to go anywhere, just from your house or from your office or from wherever you're doing a business. The following day, those penalties will be waived automatically. You can also come to our office's dedicated center where you'll be aided by experts that are there and that will be able to help you file your return and so forth. And those same experts are not the experts that will go do your verification because obviously for compliance and audit purposes, there's a reason to it. Other experts will then look at what was filed and verify whether the information that was filed is correct and such. But you will not get this. Your PwC will not tell you no, you can go for free somewhere. They'll say, "I not come," because it's business-wide.
To be a world-class revenue agency, there is a need to ensure that the NamRA brand is generally recognizable. That's the participation in the recently held Copper Festival at Tsumeb in the Oshikoto region. NamRA took its services to the people, and here is what the Ochivarongo Regional Office Manager had to say during the business engagement session.
Adam Smith once observed, and I quote, "The subjects of every state ought to contribute towards the support of the government as nearly as possible in proportion of their respective abilities," unquote. This may seem like a statement of the obvious, but it goes to the heart of the discussion we are having around our respective contributions to the economy, particularly in a time of economic difficulty coupled with austerity. We encourage vital investments that will enable our economy to grow and for our public services to deliver the support that all of us as citizens are to rely upon. Keeping in mind the theme of the wiring Namibia towards industrial innovation.
Last month, the Minister of Finance, Ipumbu Shimi, tabled the media budget review in Parliament, and since then, various stakeholders held several review sessions. NamRA Commissioner Sam Shivute recently addressed a session jointly organized by PwC, Standard Bank, Liberty Life, and Namibia Media Holdings on some of the challenges confronting the revenue agency.
Industry normally awaits with bated breath on the Minister's annual budget and country's quest towards recovery after what can only be described as a devastating 2 years, during which our country was ravaged on many socio-economic levels. I need not remind you about the physical losses that we suffered, but perhaps what I need to remind is about the lasting economic damage that was caused to our landscape, resulting in the closure of many businesses right at the beginning of COVID in 2020.
But there are also a number of challenges that we have observed. What are those challenges? Tax morality. Tax morale in Namibia is not where it's supposed to be. Tax compliance, last time when we checked the number, the compliance, and what do we mean by compliance? Checking the compliance rate. We look at the number of those who are supposed to have registered and they have registered, the submission of returns on time, declaration accurately, declaration and payment, what's supposed to be paid and on time. And with that, we could only get up to 57%. But we also know that even those that comply and they are within that 57%, not everyone pay or declare what they're supposed to do. And now we do have, because of our interagency collaboration and so on, we could pick up that not everyone really pay what they're supposed to be paid. So under valuation, the goods and consignment that are brought into the country, we have noted that the goods are not properly declared, truly declared. You have a consignment of 100 million and it's declared at $1 million, so that people pay less customs duty.
We will now focus on domestic taxes in a while.
We administer tax and custom laws so efficiently and consistently. We are ethical, effective in changing lives. We are there for you. This is your revenue.
NamRA, serving with passion to positively impact the livelihood of every Namibian.
Domestic taxes is one of the 2 operational departments within NamRA. Today, we are talking to the head of domestic taxes, Mr. Idi Itope, and we'll cover topics covering taxpayers, service deliveries, and plans for the future. Good day, Mr. Itope, and thank you for joining us.
Good day, Lady Puya. Thank you for making time to talk to me today.
Tell us about the functions of Domestic Taxes Department, its importance, and how it's aligned with the rest of NamRA's departments.
Thank you for the question. The Domestic Taxes Department is responsible for, amongst other things, to collect taxes, being indirect tax, and direct taxes, which means taxes on income, taxes on goods and services, and all the other taxes that are administered by NamRA. Now, this department is so important in NamRA because it's responsible for the entire process relating to taxpayers, from the registration to the filing to payment of taxes and eventually to providing a service to the taxpayers. So this department is aligned, or it works closely with all the other departments in NamRA, being the finance department that is responsible for providing finances for this department to carry on its mandate, being the HR department, and all the other departments in NamRA. So it does not work in isolation. It's part of all those other departments. And it really serves to serve taxpayers on a daily basis to make sure that the country, the public, the general taxpayers are served on a daily basis. So that's really the mandate of the Department of Domestic Taxes in NamRA.
Okay. How are you building a strong team to efficiently render a seamless service to the taxpayers?
The starting point is always the people. With this department, we need roughly 650 people as per the current structure. Now, these people will provide a service to around 800,000 taxpayers in Namibia, taxpayers who are currently registered with NamRA. We have then looked at the type of services needed. The first one that we identified was that of a dedicated service center, which we have put up so that this center serves all the taxpayers, those that walk in and need various services. Equally then, as we build a team, we look at what serves this country the best. We then looked at the audit and compliance division within domestic taxes. So this division will look at the compliance in general. It will look at the activities of both businesses and individuals. It will audit the business activities, and it will improve compliance. Equally, we've looked at enforcement because this is a critical component of domestic taxes. And to set that up and to strengthen that, we have then devised standard operating procedures, we have devised guidelines, we have devised strategies, so that when we put up a strong team to provide a seamless service, we have identified those critical needs that the taxpayers need, that NamRA needs, and we move forward in serving the taxpayers by providing the required services.
You alluded to the standard operating procedures. What processes and standard operating procedures do you regard as critical, and what has been done so far?
Thank you. That's a very good question. First, it's about simplification, where you make it easier for all the taxpayers to transact with NamRA, for all the taxpayers to fulfill their obligations of tax compliance. What we have done then is we have looked at the system that we have, and we have made it easier for taxpayers to register. We have made it easier for taxpayers to do online filing. We have made it easier for taxpayers not to walk long distances to visit our offices, but rather make use of a modern system. Equally, we have devised certain standard operating procedures. To be specific, we have looked at and devised the operating procedures relating to good standing certificates. That means each taxpayer will know when they will get a certificate and when they will not. We have also devised guidelines relating to refunds. So the aim really here is to assist taxpayers who are owed money by NamRA to receive their refunds within a short period of time. So these are some of the standard operating procedures that we have looked at. But all in all, it's really to make it convenient for all our taxpayers to fulfill their obligations of complying with taxes.
You mentioned tax refunds. Is NamRA really paying refunds, or is NamRA keeping the refunds for itself for unknown reasons?
Here's the thing about refunds. First, we do not want to keep refunds that are legitimately owed to taxpayers. We want to pay them out as soon as possible. Equally, we don't want to pay out refunds that are not owed to taxpayers. In other words, we don't want to give away the money that belongs to the government. So what do we do then? We look at all the claims that relate to refunds. With these claims, we then assess them in terms of their risk. When we assess them, we subject them to an audit based on that risk. If we deem the risk to be so high, then the audit will be extensive. If the risk is minimal, for people like employees who simply have a deduction in terms of contribution to annuity, contribution to pension, contribution to study policy, etc. So such a risk would be minimal in our case. So all these refunds would pay them out without much delay. Now, when we look at the refunds for this year, so far we've paid out 4.5 billion. Normally we pay out around 7 billion. So we are still on track in terms of the amount that we expect to pay out at the end of the financial year. What we are doing then, because NamRA is about continuous improvement, we have devised a strategy in terms of looking at what we have that we have not paid out yet, what we owe the taxpayers, what we owe individuals, how much we owe companies, because businesses depend on the cash flow to sustain their operations. So this strategy will then outline some of the measures where we set specific deadlines in terms of paying the money out. So our aim really is to pay out refunds that have been verified, refunds that are owed to taxpayers, and that's what we want to uphold.
With NamRA paying out 7 to 8 billion in refund, and the tax that seems to be growing at an alarming rate, what plan is NamRA having?
What plan? The plan is really to contain the debt. Now, when we talk about the tax debt, we're talking about a capital amount of 14 billion so far. If you add interest and penalties, you are in the range of 68 to 70 billion. Now, businesses and individuals alike have found it difficult to settle their tax arrears. That is why NamRA decided to give them some breathing space, to give them a relief in terms of writing off interest, a relief in terms of writing off some penalties, or all the penalties rather. So, and right now we're in November. If any taxpayer pays their capital in full, they get 70% of interest written off and all the penalties written off. But this program continues until May next year, when 60% of the interest will be written off. And because of what especially businesses went through over the last few years, the COVID effect, the businesses closing down, retrenchments taking place everywhere, we're going easy on businesses so that they at least find their ground again in terms of making money and in terms of settling their accounts. So, but what's going to happen then in the near future is that we are going to enforce the law in terms of recovering all this tax debt that is owed to NamRA. Because for as long as an amount remains outstanding, NamRA is empowered to recover such an amount through different means, such as the appointment of third-party agents, such as selling assets, and so many other ways of recovering the tax debt. That is the only way we can get this money back, and that is the only way we'll be able to pay out the refunds that you spoke about, and also to generate enough revenue for the government.
There is a new concept in Namibia about Taxpayer Appreciation Day. Tell us about this concept and when will it be held?
Thank you. This is really about thanking taxpayers. Why are we thanking taxpayers? We are thanking taxpayers for complying with tax laws, for submitting their returns on time, for making payments when they are due, and for complying with all the other requests advanced by NamRA. So this appreciation really looks at the money, it looks at the tax forms. The money component is about looking at how much the taxpayer has contributed. And the return component looks at whether or not they filed all their returns and done so on time. So we then have different categories where we award businesses, being big businesses and small businesses. Equally, we have a category of individuals where we look at natural persons. We award them for contributing to the revenue. We award them for, as I said before, filing their returns on time. So these different categories that we have will then be recognized, so to say, in terms of their contribution, in terms of what they have done for NamRA to exist and for NamRA to collect the revenue that is needed. So the event itself coincides with the anniversary of NamRA, so which will be on the 7th of April 2023. That is where we're going to have an event at a place to be determined, and we're going to invite all these taxpayers that we intend to award on that day.
That is such a great initiative, Mr. Itope, and we look forward to the event. Before we conclude, what is your message to taxpayers regarding tax compliance?
Thank you for that question. NamRA intends to build trust with the taxpayers. We intend to increase the tax morale with the taxpayers. We intend to make it convenient for the taxpayers. My message to the taxpayers then is, please make use of our online services. When you are transacting with NamRA in terms of lodging objections, in terms of filing tax forms, in terms of making inquiries, make use of the portal that we have on the integrated tax administration system. Equally, we are urging and encouraging you to respond to all the correspondences made or sent to you by NamRA. This institution is for all of us. Compliance can be attained only when all of us collaborate, and we urge all of you to file on time and make payments on time. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Itope. It was nice having you.
Thank you for making time to engage me today. It's appreciated.
That was Mr. Idi Itope, Head of Domestic Taxes.
We administer tax and custom laws so efficiently and consistently. We are ethical, effective in changing lives. We are there for you. This is your revenue. NamRA.
NamRA, serving with passion to Nation.
Today, we engage Mr. Erastus Shipuleni, who is serving as the Manager Customs Tariff Management for 5 months now at NamRA. However, he has experience of over 25 years in customs and excise. His main drive has been the love for his job, the energy, dedication about serving, and teamwork. Let's hear from Mr. Erastus Shipuleni.
My name is Erastus Shipuleni. I'm a Control Customs and Excise Officer at the Subdivision Tariff Management Customs and also the Project Manager for Skoda World. My role entails supervising and coordinating the Skoda World activities, ensuring the tariff amendment updated and loaded on the systems, and also ensuring coordinating and ensuring the tariff rules are written, updated and loaded accordingly so that the customs and NamRA at the end collect the correct duties and taxes, and the stakeholders do the clearance accordingly as the system is established. Skoda World is a computer systems, an electronic system that entails registering and importing and exporting, so the declarations, and it's the system that we use for all in Namibia, so for collecting duties and taxes and ensuring that clearance is taking place and everybody working at their own patience. And I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about updating it and make sure that the system is up. Well, I'm inspired by the late Nelson Mandela, the hope, kindness, and honesty. And I'm also inspired by Saki Noma. He was the previous Skoda team members, and the love of the way he was working and motivating that everything is possible if you put your mind on it. So it created that patience, and there's also the love of keyboard. That with everything you do, you have patience, you put hope, and then the rest will work itself. And the great teams, don't forget about the great teams I'm working with. They make the Skoda possible. Without them, Skoda would not be the way Skoda does not belong to the Skoda teams either. It belongs to everybody. Everybody have a role to play. If anybody finds something that requires to be updated, we are here to help, as we are here for the stakeholders, and we are here for NamRA to collect the duties and taxes and to protect the society and ensure we bring what is required out of the best of it. Thank you very much.
We are now approaching the end of our show. Here is a tax trivia.
Did you know the Namibian taxation system is predominantly regulated by the Income Tax Act 24 of 1981, which regulates personal and corporate taxes, and the Value Added Tax Act 10 of 2000. Namibia has a source-based income tax regime. The Namibian tax system is therefore not concerned with where a taxpayer is resident, but rather looks at the place where income has been earned.
NamRA. Saving with passion.
Here's today's question. Name at least 3 functions of domestic taxes. Do email your answer to NamRA Kachenu at namra.org.na. The due date for submission is the 30th of November 2022. The winner will be announced in the next episode.
This is all that we had for this edition of NamRA Kachenu. We'll be back again in 2 weeks, but until then, goodbye.
Giving fairness and equality to our nation. We appreciate the difference in ethnicity.